Everyone keeps acting like $150 is just a number on a chart. It's not. At $150, silver stops behaving like a metal trade and starts behaving like a stress test. And the trap in silver almost never looks like a trap at first. It looks like a gift, a dip, a perfect entry, a candle that makes you feel safe again. That's how the market steals positions. As I record this, it's late January 2026. Drop a comment with the time you're watching and your country, because these moves don't stay local anymore. Today we're doing 3 things, fast and clean. I'm going to explain the rumor everyone is whispering about, an undisclosed large financial player that may be short a massive amount of silver exposure. I'll show you the $150 trap pattern, how a sharp, sudden dip can be used to trigger retail stop losses and force selling right when the squeeze pressure is highest. And I'll give you a practical survival framework so you don't get shaken out by a manufactured move, whether the rumor is true or not. Quick disclaimer, this is educational commentary, not financial advice. I'm not accusing any specific institution of wrongdoing, and I'm not claiming any rumor is verified. We're talking about mechanics and incentives. Now let's start with the core idea. In every tight market, there are 2 games running at the same time. The public game, headlines, charts, targets, excitement. The hidden game, positioning, collateral, margin, and who must do what by a deadline. Silver is the perfect arena for the hidden game because it's small compared to global capital, and it's violently sensitive to leverage. So what does short exposure actually mean in plain language? A short is a bet that price goes down, but in real markets, shorts are not always evil. Many are hedges. A refiner might short to lock revenue. A manufacturer might short to manage input costs. A dealer might short to hedge inventory, and funds might short as part of spread trades. The problem is concentration. If a single large player is carrying a short position that is too big relative to available liquidity, it becomes a ticking clock. Because the higher silver rises, the more collateral that player must post. And if the move gets fast, the risk managers don't ask politely. They demand cash now. That's where break risk appears. Not because someone's balance sheet is fake, because the position can become unmanageable at the exact wrong moment. Now here's the part most people miss. A short doesn't have to collapse for you to lose. You can lose simply by getting shaken out before the real move. And that brings us to the $150 silver trap. The trap is not that silver can't reach $150. The trap is what tends to happen on the way there, because when a market approaches a headline target, 2 forces collide. Force 1, new buyers rush in late, emotional, confident, and often leveraged. Force 2, trap shorts and stressed hedges scramble to survive. When those forces collide, you get the ugliest price action on the entire chart. Here is the classic trap pattern. Phase 1, the run. Silver climbs hard, social media gets loud, targets get posted, everyone feels smart, the crowd starts behaving like the outcome is guaranteed. Phase 2, the reason event, a sudden story drops, a cooling narrative appears, volatility spikes. It doesn't matter if the reason is real, exaggerated, or just convenient. What matters is it gives the market permission to drop. Phase 3, the liquidity sweep price dumps fast, often during thinner liquidity, straight through obvious levels, stops get triggered. Leverage gets forced out. People who bought late puke their position, and the tape prints a candle that makes you think the entire move is over. Phase 4, the snapback. Right after the pain, price stabilizes. It doesn't keep falling. It starts reclaiming levels that shouldn't come back so quickly. And that's when you learn the dip was not a verdict. It was a transfer. Now, how can a dip help a stressed short? Because exits are not moral. Exits are mechanical. If you're short and price is rising, you want 2 things. You want liquidity, and you want weaker hands to sell to you. A fast dip creates both. It turns buyers into sellers. It turns confident longs into panicked liquidation. It creates volume, real volume, where a large player can reduce risk without chasing price higher. And the key detail, it often happens near emotional zones, round numbers, recent highs, places where the crowd is clustered with the same stop placement. That's why the trap feels personal, because it is built on predictable human behavior. Now let's talk about the rumor. An undisclosed bank is short billions of ounces. I'm going to treat this the responsible way. I don't know if that rumor is accurate. You don't know if it's accurate. Most people repeating it don't know if it's accurate. But here's what we can do. We can ask, if a large concentrated short exists in any form, what signals would show stress? Watch these. Signal 1. Margin pressure behavior. In rising markets, if you see sudden volatility bursts and hard dumps that reverse quickly, that's often collateral stress being managed, not genuine supply relief. Signal 2. Inventory and delivery tension. If paper price dips but physical premiums stay stubborn, you're seeing the split between screen liquidity and real-world availability. Signal 3. Options gravity. Around major strikes, price often gets magnetized, then whipped. That's not magic, it's hedging flows. Signal 4. Open interest shifts during dips. If price falls but open interest rises, it can suggest new shorts piling in. If price falls and open interest collapses, it can suggest positions being closed, sometimes in a hurry. Signal 5. Speed. Real trend reversals usually take time. Trap moves are sudden, vertical down, then vertical up. The goal is to shock, not to persuade. Now I want to speak directly to the retail holder, because this is where the trap does damage. If your entire plan is, I'll just use a tight stop loss so I'm safe, understand the irony. Tight stops are often the easiest liquidity source for a sweep. I'm not telling you never use stops. I'm telling you to understand where you're placing your head on the chopping block. In a market this volatile, obvious levels are crowded levels. Crowded levels are hunted levels. So what do you do instead? Here's the survival framework. Boring, powerful, effective. Rule 1. Don't confuse volatility with failure. Silver can drop hard in an uptrend. That is not a bug. That is the market resetting leverage. Rule 2. Size positions for the ugly route. If a normal dip forces you to panic, your position is too big. The goal is to stay in the game, not to win one candle. Rule 3. Split your exposure by purpose. If you hold silver as long-term protection, treat it like insurance. Low leverage, high staying power. If you trade silver, treat it like a trade. Defined risk, defined time horizon. Rule 4. Use staged entries, not perfect entries. The market rarely gives comfort, it gives motion. Build your position in pieces, based on rules decided when you're calm. Rule 5. Treat headline targets like turbulence zones. As price approaches big numbers, expect shakeouts. Plan for them. Don't be surprised by them. Rule 6. Watch the physical market as a truth filter. If dealer premiums, delays, or availability stay tight while spot whips, the core pressure may still be present. Now let's connect this back to $150. Why is $150 such a trap zone? Because it's not just a number. It's a psychological milestone. It's the kind of number that pulls in late money. Late money tends to be leveraged. Leveraged crowds are fragile. And fragile crowds create the perfect environment for a sweep. So what happens if the market is actually building toward $150? You're likely to see a sequence like this. Run, dump, grind, spike. Each dump is designed to do one thing. Transfer ounces from impatient hands to patient hands. Now, could a big institution be trapped short? It's possible. But the better mindset is this. Even if no single player is trapped, the trap can still exist. Because the market structure itself creates trap behavior. Leverage, margin, options hedging, liquidity gaps, and human emotion. So stop building your plan around villains. Build your plan around incentives. Incentive. When price is rising, the most valuable commodity is liquidity. Stops provide liquidity. Panic provides liquidity. Forced selling provides liquidity. That's why the market manufactures fear right when confidence is highest. Now here's the final piece, the cliffhanger. If silver is heading toward $150, the next shock probably won't be a smooth rally. It will be a violent dip that proves the story is over, right before the next leg begins. So your question is not, will it dip? Your question is, will I be forced to sell into the dip? Make sure the answer is no. If you want, comment trap, and I'll post a simple checklist you can keep beside your screen. The 5 signals that separate a real reversal from a liquidity sweep. Educational only, not financial advice. Stay disciplined, stay patient, and don't let the market rent space in your nervous system. Now let's go one layer deeper, because this is where the trap becomes obvious. When people say someone is short billions of ounces, they usually imagine a warehouse that doesn't exist. But ounces in finance often means exposure, not bars stacked in a room. In the paper market, a single contract represents a large amount of metal on paper. That paper can be created, traded, and netted without a truck ever moving. So a huge short exposure can exist as a web of contracts, swaps, forwards, options, and hedges. And when price runs, the web tightens. Here's a clean mental model. A short is like being underwater holding a breath. The higher price goes, the deeper you sink. At some point you don't get to believe anymore. You must surface or you pass out. That surfacing is buying. And when shorts are forced to buy, the market can accelerate faster than logic. So why would price dip at all if shorts are trapped? Because before a short is forced to buy, the short fights for time. And the easiest way to buy time is to create a drop that shakes out the late longs. That drop can come from many sources that don't require a cartoon villain. Liquidity gaps during off-peak hours, sudden margin requirement changes that force leverage liquidation, options hedging flows that amplify a move. Dealer inventory management and spread widening large block trades that overwhelm the order book briefly. None of that is a conspiracy. It's structure, and structure is enough. Now let's talk about the most misunderstood weapon in these markets, the clean dip. A clean dip is the dip that looks logical. It prints a tidy narrative. It ran too far. It hit resistance. It needs to cool off. A messy dip is scary, chaotic, and obviously mechanical. People can resist it because it feels artificial. But a clean dip is seductive. It makes you believe the market is being rational again. That's why it's dangerous, because the clean dip invites you to do the one thing you should not do near a squeeze zone: increase leverage. That's how people get wiped. So here's the truth I want you to tattoo on the inside of your brain. The trap isn't the dip. The trap is what you do because of the dip. Now let's separate ownership types, because the word own is doing a lot of lying in the metals world. There are three broad ways people own silver: physical, in your direct control; allocated custody, where specific bars are set aside for you; paper exposure, where you own a claim whose payout is defined by rules you don't control. Paper exposure can be useful for liquidity and trading, but it has a hidden feature: it can change the game at the worst time. In a stressed market, rulebooks matter. If settlement rules prioritize cash over delivery, then paper holders discover the hard truth. You didn't own metal, you owned a promise. And in a true squeeze, promises are the first thing that gets discounted. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it because it's the root of the $150 trap. At $150, everyone wants the same thing at the same time: certainty. And the market cannot hand certainty to everyone, so it rations. It rations with volatility. It rations with premiums. It rations with delays. It rations by changing who gets first access. That's why the price action gets violent, because the market is choosing winners and losers through motion. Now let's build a practical trap detector. When you see a sudden dump, ask these questions in order. Question 1. Did physical loosen, or did only the screen loosen? If the screen drops but physical stays tight, the dump is likely about leverage, not about abundance. Question 2. Did the dump break structure, or only trigger stops? A real breakdown doesn't just pierce a level, it stays below it. It fails to reclaim it quickly. Trap dumps often snap back because the goal was harvesting, not changing the trend. Question 3. Did volume explode on the way down, then dry up at the lows? That often means capitulation selling was harvested. If volume keeps rising as price keeps falling, that can be more serious. Question 4. Did the market become too quiet after the panic? After a sweep, you often see a strange calm. That calm is the absence of weak hands. It's the market resetting. Question 5. Is the narrative too clean? If the explanation feels perfectly packaged for fear, be suspicious. Markets rarely move for one tidy reason. Now here's the part that turns this into a liquidation guide for your own behavior. I want you to imagine two people. Person A buys silver because they believe in the long-term story. They size it so a 15% dip is annoying, not life-threatening. They don't need perfect timing. They are patient. Person B buys silver because they saw a headline number. They are late. They are emotional. They use leverage, or they use money they might need. They cannot tolerate a hard dip. They place a tight stop because they want control. When the market needs liquidity, whose position gets harvested first? Person B, every time. And here's the brutal twist. Person B thinks they are being disciplined. But the market reads their discipline as a liquidity pool. So if you want to survive a market heading toward $150, you have to stop acting like Person B. That's it. Now let's get very practical with how to not donate your position. Method 1. The time horizon split. Take your total exposure and split it mentally into two piles. Pile 1 is the core. You don't touch it in shakeouts. Pile 2 is the tactical. You trade around it with strict rules. If you don't split, you'll trade your core in a panic and regret it. Method 2. The staged ladder. Instead of one entry, set 3 or 5 planned entries. If price runs, you still participate. If price dips, you buy into fear with structure, not emotion. Method 3. The stop placement reality check. If you must use a stop, don't place it where everyone else places it. Obvious levels are magnets. Magnet levels are swept levels. Better yet, use position sizing so you don't need a hair trigger stop to sleep. Method 4. The leverage band near milestones. When price approaches a major headline zone, reduce leverage, don't increase it. Milestones are turbulence. Turbulence breaks wings. Method 5. The cash buffer. In these markets, cash is not cowardice. Cash is optionality. Optionality is power. A small buffer prevents forced selling. Forced selling is what the trap is built to create. Now I want to address the emotional poison that ruins people in silver. The belief that if you don't catch the whole move, you failed. That belief is how you chase. Chasing is how you get harvested. You don't need the whole move. You need a survivable move. Because the real wealth isn't made by predicting one candle. It's made by staying in position through multiple acts. Now let's add the most important concept of all. The difference between price and access. In normal markets, price and access are basically the same. If you pay, you get the thing. In stressed markets, access becomes the real currency. You can have a price on a screen and still not get the thing easily. That is when premiums and delays appear. That is when ownership gets tested. So the $150 trap is not just a dip. It's a possible moment where the market begins rationing access. And the rationing mechanism can be brutal. That's why the smartest mindset isn't, will it hit $150? It's, How do I behave so I'm not forced to sell right before access tightens? Now we close with a simple playbook you can run every time the market tries to scare you. The sweep checklist. Is the drop fast and vertical? Did it hit obvious levels like a magnet? Did it reverse quickly after stops likely triggered? Did physical availability and premiums remain tight? Did the narrative show up instantly, perfectly packaged? Did volatility spike, then calm without follow-through? Did the market reclaim key levels within a day or two? If you answer yes to most of those, you may have witnessed a sweep, not a reversal. And that's your moment to stop reacting and start thinking. Now, final cliffhanger. If the rumor is even partly true, the most dangerous candle isn't the rally candle. It's the candle that convinces you the rally is dead. Because that's the candle that hands your position to the buyer who was waiting. So don't build your plan around being right. Build it around not being forced out. Comment trap if you want the short version of this checklist pinned. Educational only, not financial advice. Before you go, here's a simple next 72 hours watch list you can use without staring at social media. Watch 1, spot versus physical. If spot drops but dealers don't cut premiums, that tells you the dip is paper liquidity, not real surplus. Watch 2, delivery chatter and warehouse movement. You don't need insider info. You need trends. Are deliverable categories rising, flat, or draining? Watch 3, spreads and urgency. When nearby contracts trade unusually firm versus later months, that can hint at tightness now, not later. Watch 4, volatility timing. Sweeps love quiet hours. Real reversals usually grind, test, and fail in daylight. Watch 5, your own behavior. If you feel the urge to do something because the chart is loud, that's the trap working. Write one sentence. I bought for X reason. If X is still true, don't let a 5-minute candle rewrite your plan. And if X is not true, don't argue with the market. Reduce risk calmly. One last reminder, the market doesn't need to beat you on information. It beats you on emotion and structure. If silver is marching toward $150, expect turbulence, not a straight line. The winners won't be the loudest. They'll be the most prepared. See you in the next update. If you're holding paper exposure, read your product rules today, not during a panic. Know what happens in extreme volatility, how settlement works, and what rights you truly have. If you're holding physical, remember, the goal is not to win the chart. The goal is to keep purchasing power and optionality when the crowd is trading certainty for comfort. Drop one word in the comments, steel or paper. That tells me how this audience is positioned, and it helps shape the next episode. Educational only. Nothing here is a guarantee. Markets can stay irrational longer than anyone expects, so keep leverage low, keep position sizes humane, and keep your decisions rule-based. Your job is survival first, profit second. Stay calm, stay sharp, see the trap early. Okay.